Let's get comfy here early. It's time to have a chat.
I'm already comfy, you're late.
Oh, always late to the party, eh?
Let's get started.
Let's get started, guys. Hey guys, welcome back to the Adventures of HP_Squared. I'm Hemel.
I'm Hirali.
Episode 7 today, guys. Can't believe we're 7 episodes in.
I know, we've done quite well.
We have a little bit of inconsistency over the past couple of weeks because we have been relatively busy, but it's okay. Today's topic is going to be all about
mental health in the Asian community, which is a bit of a taboo topic, but we wanted to explore.
Yeah, we did want to explore, and I think it's getting slightly better, but things like mental health, neurodiversity, and there's other things that we don't really talk about or we brush under the carpet because we feel like it's not real or it's just not worth stressing about, if you like. But these are things that need to be out there, need to be opened up with, because it does play on your mind. You know, we've had our own experiences, which we'll share shortly in the podcast. But firstly, guys, we'd like to thank you for the follows, for the listening, for the views, and the and all of those things. We need to get that little thumb, you know, the thumb that you get on YouTube that goes ding, and you can like and subscribe.
That's the editor's problem.
I know the editor's not very good at the moment. But we're going to quickly dive into our week before we dive into the main part of the podcast, if you like, just to share you what we've been up to. So, when was the last one? Last week, wasn't it? So, what have we been up to in the past week or so?
Well, I've been really ill, so I've been up to nothing apart from being in bed. I've caught this like chesty, flu-y thing that's going around, which is a bit of a nightmare, but I'm on the mend now finally, so we're back to recording, which is good. So Hemel's been looking after me.
Yeah, I've been looking after Hirali, been looking after the house. I mean, it was pretty bad. Plenty of fatigue. You can probably still hear a little bit in her voice, actually. She's not been up to the greatest, but ever lively as ever. But here we are. What's my week consist of? Work. It's actually been half term, so I didn't really have coaching.
No. Guys, I had my first one-to-one with Hemel.
Oh, yeah.
That was quite fun. How do you think I performed?
I thought you performed pretty well. Admired your endeavour and your skill set that you're going to provide. Hopefully you can progress. I think you did relatively well for a beginner. It was a shame that I didn't actually, somebody had taken my practice bat out of my kit bag, out of my coaching kit bag, so I didn't have that on me, but here we are. We managed to make it work with an iron bat, so a slightly slimmer bat, and we did some bowling, didn't we? Which I'm sure I could put on the social media at some point.
Maybe in the future when I become a pro, hey?
You might just see the video in the next coming days, actually. But guys, we also went to Dublin, didn't we, for a couple of days with the family. A lot of rain. Didn't really miss the rain, did we? But I think that's where Hirali might have just got a little bit worse. But here we are. If you do go to Dublin, plenty of good sites. Hirali took us to Temple Bar, Church Bar, and then what was the other places that we went to?
Guinness Factory.
Oh yeah, Guinness, Jameson.
It's a lot of drinking, to be honest.
And the jail. The jail I would recommend if you haven't been.
Kilmanian. I think it's called Kilmanian Prison.
Yeah, Kilmanian Jail. Yeah.
Something like that.
Really good. But guys, again, thank you, and we'd also like to ask you guys. Ask about the listeners' messages, if you like. Well, we're not going to brand it as that, but you wanted to go into a little bit of that yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we wanted to know a bit more from you guys about the questions that you have, the topics that you want. So we will be posting that shortly on our socials. Please feel free to reply to that. And we want to get into juicy topics that you want us to talk about. So, and we also want your opinions on things. Like I was telling Hemel, like I know I love the game time section, but it would be good to have listeners' input.
Yeah. So guys, please do get inputting into our DMs.
That sounds so weird.
Inputting into our DMs, or if you know us privately, you can always message us privately. That's absolutely fine. I feel so. Yeah. Right, guys. Let's quickly dive in then.
Let's get into the episode.
Dun, 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 dun. We need an interlude, didn't we? So there's the interlude. Right. So as we spoke about at the beginning, we are going to delve into mental health. various different topics within this. I feel so own experiences plus jobs, first aid course, men and mental health, and then obviously Hirali's favourite time,
Game time.
Yeah. And in that we're going to do myth or truth. So guys, chapter 1 or section 1 if you like. Own experiences and jobs.
So I want to ask you.
Yeah.
What is your perception of mental health?
Now or before?
Oh, what do you mean before?
How can I put this? I think I put a blind eye to it. I was probably part of that 10% club, if you like. Well, not 10% club. I think there's a majority, more majority than that, of our culture, of our heritage, and obviously the Asian community as well, that believe that mental health probably isn't a deeply wide topic as it should be. And I think before you sort of turn a blind eye to it, you sort of get on with things, and you just don't realize it. So, I mean, I just thought, yeah, it's probably more of a mindset thing, because that's how I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's only a mindset. But I think over time, and obviously having multiple jobs and things like that, your body does challenge itself in a way that you would never imagine. So you start to break down, you start to feel more tired, and your brain starts playing a few little tricks on you to sort of say, calm down, slow down, you need this mental break. Now, nobody can actually physically tell you that you're playing a game when you're actually tired, right? So I think over time I started to realize that it is actually a real thing. And having seen friends through it, family to an extent, and then obviously reading on the news and whatever, you start to go, yeah, it is actually a real thing. Big thing at work as well. So to go back to answer your question, before, probably didn't think it was a big thing. Now, yes, I do think it's a big thing. That isn't because we're doing the podcast, by the way, but that is because I just feel it's a big thing now, and we need to talk about it. I'm going to reverse the question back to you, because very different experiences, and I think it'd be interesting to get your point of view as to whether you had it before and now, or whether you had the same narrative all along. So,
well, first of all, I think it's excuse me. I think it's really interesting because obviously Hemel spoke about having different perceptions, but he's the one who actually wanted to speak about this topic, which is crazy because I think that shows a massive shift of like men and mental health, which we'll obviously delve into later. But I think for me, it's been pretty similar throughout my adulthood because I've gone into my career. Well, forget my career. Like I studied psychology. It was all to do with the brain and the workings of the brain, and obviously the science behind everything that comes along with mental health. So I was so invested in it. Like I really understood. I can't speak.
funny.
Yeah.
That's a great interlude, by the way. Guys, that isn't a natural break. That's just a little bit of the repercussion from last week, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, I couldn't speak. I felt like my voice was coming out.
It's okay.
What have I told you about touching?
I'm sorry.
Okay, love you. So I think that I really do think mental health is a thing, and I think for men and women it's equally as important. And I just think that it should be spoken about more. I think like we talk about physical disabilities and physical issues because we actually see them, but mental issues, no one can see what you're going through, and they're so easy to hide that when you're walking on the street, someone could tell if you like broke a limb or like you were in a wheelchair, but no one could tell if you're going through a difficult time. So when people say if you can be anything in the world, be kind, I completely agree because you never know what the person next to you is going through.
It's funny you say that, and it's probably a little bit linked to one of our topics later on. But I don't know if you recall, we went to Tesco during the week, and there was that chap. Because we didn't use the self checkout, we saw a till was free. There was that chap on the till that looked like he had been, and I can't put it any more than this, but it looked like he'd been through the wars, quite literally.
Battered.
He was absolutely battered. He was sitting on the till. He had a scratch mark on on both of his forearms. His eyes literally were bloodshot, and it looked like he had two black eyes with, again, sort of, I'm going to call it eczema, but I don't think it was eczema, to be honest, all around it. and he just looked tired. He looked frail. He looked cold. I mean, he had a jacket, but he had the jacket on the chair. But even that didn't look like much use to him, to be honest. And he was really thin. You know, he was paper thin, essentially.
The side of his face like it was scraped off, and we felt really bad for him.
And he wasn't really talkative, bless him. But you don't know what that person is going through. Now, he could have been battered, or it could just be eczema. We don't know. But judging by the sight of it, it looked like he'd been through quite a bit. And like Hirali said, you don't know what somebody's going through. And like she's just spoken about, it's important to know that when somebody breaks a limb, isn't well, we always check in. You know, I had my ankle injury, and I know we've already heard about that ankle injury. Everybody would ask, "How's your ankle?"
We won't stop hearing about
that. True. If you're on crutches, if your mates are on crutches, you know, you tend to ask these things, but nobody tends to ask the question, "How are you? How is your?" I don't think. Can you ask how is your mental?
How are you actually feeling?
Yeah.
How are you really feeling? You know, you're just like, "Hi, how are you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm cool." If someone says, "Oh, I'm fine," or "I'm okay," but they don't sound great, no one really follows up on that.
No.
It's more just like, "Okay, cool."
No, and I think it's why it's a big taboo, particularly in our culture. You know, we don't. You know, if you're ill, for example, people will check upon you, but how are you actually feeling? How are you actually starting to? You know, no one's going to ask you the direct question, "How is your mental health?" Right? Because that is a spiraling question in itself. But they can ask you like, "How are you feeling? How's your mindset?" Things like that. You know, and we don't tend to ask those questions. But again, like Hirali says, like she's been there and done that with her psychology side of things. My coaching background has really helped me within this because obviously I'm dealing with female teenagers who are going through various times. You know, you don't know what they're going through, right? You know, some of them are going through their GCSEs right now, and you can tell they're mentally starting to flag a little bit, and it's very, very difficult. You know.
Also, they're going through puberty as well.
Correct.
It's huge. Their hormones are changing. That affects you mentally big
time. And that's where I sort of started to develop in my self development of, you know what, this is an actual real thing, right? Whereas working with boys, don't get me wrong, right? We're sort of happy go lucky people, and no offense to females, but you guys go through a lot in the teenage years. And that's where working with the girls, I've started to imagine going, hang on, this is actually a real topic. You know, I deal with players that are going through various times. I can't give too much away, unfortunately, on here because there is quite a couple of them that have been in the wars and whatnot, and you know they're not in the best of spaces at the moment. And yet you can see that on their face. They come into the sessions and they're not great, but by talking about their experiences, they're starting to feel a little bit better, you know. And a lot of them do cry because it's tough. That's my own development, but that's what I've learned. And particularly being with you, and you know, when you first met me, I feel like, you know, you knew I was a coach and whatever, but you were like, but you don't know, you're not imagining what they're going through, right? And I think that's really helped.
Yeah, we used to have really in-depth conversations about mental health, and I was like, how do you deal with girls and this? And he was like, wow, you've really opened up my eyes. So I'm glad I could give you that knowledge because I think that's quite important.
Yeah, and I think like it's very, very important. And the one thing, you might not remember this, but the workplace in itself used to have a mental health day. I don't know if it was once every year or once every 6 months. I can't remember, or one every quarter. But we used to have one. That is now gone. Okay, so I assume they've probably got rid of it because they feel like people are misusing it or probably attaching it to their other holidays, you know, which I get. But at the end of the day, a mental health day is probably a day where you can just have a bit of peace. You know, you could probably make it a long weekend, for example. So you might go to the Peak District, and on the Monday you're like, I'm going to book that Monday off, just a mental health day, to have that long. We don't have that anymore. I think on the reverse of that, though, I think that's because you can just go to the doctor and get a sick note and say, I'm not feeling great. I need this time off. So maybe there is that. I don't know, but I think workplaces need to do a little bit more in that regard.
I think that's interesting you say that because the previous company I used to work for, they used to have this thing called Wellbeing Wednesdays. So you used to have a 2-hour lunch break instead of a 1-hour lunch break. So you wouldn't have like an extra day off, but you could go do something for your well-being, like yoga, mindfulness, going out for lunch with a friend. So that was kind of cool, I think. But in my current workplace, we're just so pro mental health. Like it's a big thing that we don't even need a well-being day because everyone's so understanding that if you need to work from home, if you're not feeling great, that's fine. If you need to log off a bit early on a day you're not feeling good, or take the day off, like that's completely fine, and it's well understood. So I'm very grateful for the workplace I work for. But that is quite sad that they've taken that away from you, and I think they should have given you a bit more of a valid reason as to why.
I don't see it around anymore. I could be wrong. I could well be wrong, but I haven't seen this because it's normally coming up in our allowance. It's not there anymore. But I'm just going to attach on to Hirali's point there about her workplace. Now, although it might not seem a big thing, I do think it's important to recognise that workplaces probably need to go down this route a little bit often. In the summer, you have Fridays off, if I'm correct, or half day or whatever it is.
Yeah, not to brag, guys, but
yeah.
I have a 4-day week.
Yeah.
In June, from June to the end of August, which is really, really good. And we have such a generous amount of annual leave outside of that, which is just fantastic. And it just makes such a difference. Like, Hemel notices I'm so much happier in summer. And I'm an 8 to 4 kind of girl. So, like, obviously, we get earlier days, we get more brighter days. And it's like, it's just nice because we get to have really good work life balance, which I think is really important.
And that also helps your mental health. You get, again, like you said, long weekends and whatever. And I think that's important. I think workplaces need to revisit that and probably start actually looking at that and going, you know what? I know a company that my friend used to work for. He used to do half day on the Friday. Again, that's fairly similar. I think it's important. I really do, because if you're stuck in meetings all week, you haven't had much time to do your admin work, or you're, for us doing coding or whatever, you're stuck in calls all day. You haven't actually had much to do, right? But those calls can be tedious, they can be tiring, they can be brain sapping, because on top you've probably got other work to do as well. By the time you get to Friday, you're probably flagging as it is. And I think for personal development, I think you need that. And again, like, I feel quite strongly in the fact that if we've said this on projects before, where Friday after a certain time we wouldn't have a Teams call. So on previous projects that I was on, maybe after 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we wouldn't have a Teams call after that, because people need to wind down for a start, but also catch up on the work that they've missed out on. Again, that's probably not helping your mental health in a massive regard, but it's helping it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, but bringing it back to the obviously topic, we're talking about mental health in the Asian communities. How do you think this is what is this whole issue? What do you think is going on? What's wrong?
I think mindset. I think it's teaching.
Culture. It's come down from like grandparents of grandparents of grandparents, and they've just got on with things, right? Especially like, I think, like, let's talk about like pregnancies and stuff like that. Like afterwards, when people have like postnatal depression, you just seem to get on with it. Before, like our great grandmothers, they didn't know what mental health was, so for them they just had to get on with it. So for people now, like younger people having kids, and they can't, it's a common thing having postnatal depression, but people just think, oh, they'll get over it.
I think you are 101% correct there. They've just got on with it. That's a very key line, right? They've tried to be inspiring, right? But by being inspiring, they've probably got the further down the line, it's probably changed slightly.
Yeah.
Because now there's a lot more on the line. I want to say, yes, back then there wasn't. There was probably just as much, but now there's probably a little bit more. And because they've had to get on with it, they probably haven't thought about this. And that's okay. That's culture back then, right? Times change. Like technology changes, times change.
Yeah. What about like pressure in terms of like career paths and things like that?
I think, again, like, pressure leads into mental health, like you say.
Would you say you were pressured?
I wouldn't say I was pressured. I was guided. But again, it was down to the fact that I was educationally smart, okay, but I wasn't probably going to go along the right lines at some point in time. I think for others that I know and have seen, they've been forced down a career path and they probably don't like it, right? Like we spoke about in other podcasts, it's that, what do you call it? What's the word? You've got can't think of the word now, but basically you've got to become an engineer, or you've got to become a doctor, or you've got to become a nurse, basically. If you guys know what the word is, please try and tell us afterwards.
The typical routes.
Yeah, if you like.
STEM subject.
Yeah, essentially. But yeah, I think there is that. I think it's more down to education and probably what they see of the past, right? And now that they've brought it down, right, it's all of a sudden going, yeah, it does impact. And now that more studies have been done on the brain and the mind, people can actually see that it is going to become a thing. So yeah.
But also, like, I think, I'm not saying that other people aren't hard workers, but Asians in general are really hard workers because some of them are immigrants and they've come over here. They've had to kind of prove themselves. So for now, for like someone who's like a teenager to turn around and say to their parents, "Oh, I'm not feeling great today. I'm just gonna like lie in bed and have a day watching Netflix." Their parents would be like, "No, you get on with the Hoover, you get on with this, you get on with that," because that's what they're used to. But because like mental health is this big thing now, it's really difficult for kids to, I think, explain to their parents that I'm not feeling great like, mentally. And a lot of Asian people I know have anxiety. Like nearly all of my Asian friends have anxiety. And it's like crazy because it's like, why? How do we explain this to parents? Like, how do we make this a thing? Like, I'm lucky my parents are quite modern and they understand mental health. And my dad actually volunteers for Mind, which is the mental health charity. But I just don't know. How do we get to the point where it isn't a taboo subject and it's actually understood? Or do you think that it's so embedded in culture that we'll never be able to get out of that?
I think we will be able to get out of it. And it will take time, right? With a lot of things, it's about time and it's about education and it's about understanding, right? And the simple fact here is you probably don't understand it and you probably don't recognize it until it happens to you for a start. But also, like, until you don't recognize it, you would never know. So unless you're not mentally fatigued and you're not bedridden as such, but you're in a bubble, for example, you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to see anybody, you don't want to go out of the house, that until somebody doesn't see that, I don't think anyone's going to know.
But that's so extreme, don't you think? This is why I believe everybody needs to go to therapy, right? I personally go to therapy regularly, and I'm lucky that my work, obviously, we used to have a space that used to fund that, and now we still have, like, I have Bupa, so we can go through that. But I think it's so important. Like, obviously, there's things in my work life that come up because I work in HR that I obviously want to offload and speak about. But obviously, personally, there are things as well, and I think it's so important. And I think everyone has something to offload. So someone who comes to me and says, "Oh, my mental health is absolutely amazing," there is always something in life. Like, life happens, and like you need to talk about it. So it's so important.
Yeah, I do think it's important. I mean, we're not trying to change people within this topic. We're just trying to educate. So don't feel like we are forcing a way or a mindset change within people. We're just trying to educate and promote mental health. Yeah. So I hope like nobody feels like we're trying to at people or whatever. That isn't the case. This is simply what essentially we've been through, what we know outside of our bubble.
And also, if you are going through something, please seek professional advice. Like, we're not professionals. We're just here chatting a load of whatever we feel. like this is just from our experiences, as we've said. So please do seek professional help. But I just think it's important that we open this topic amongst our community.
Yeah, and I think that sort of relates into our next thing as to what you can do to help or what we can do to help. And you're always very correct in saying seek help, right? There are people out there and there is things that you can do. You know, NHS offer a free mental health service. Your workplaces should be able to offer that. And by leading into the next point, you should have mental health first aiders at work now.
Well, I don't know about a should, but I think a lot of companies have the option for you to be trained as that. So me and Emma were having a discussion before the podcast that I'm trained as a mental health first aider. I'm so lucky that my CEO is trained, so he's trained most of the organisation. I think you are as well, which I think
I'm not. I'm not trained.
Oh, you're not?
I'm not trained. I haven't been put on a course yet, or the course that was there I couldn't do. So at our workplace we do have mental health first aiders. And there's a mental health group essentially that you can. And there used to be a call as well every day or every week. And this guy used to run it, and you could just sit there and chat to those lot and talk what you want and whatnot. And it used to be quite good. I used to join those calls because it used to be a good laugh, to be honest. And it just breaks up your day. So this section, guys, is primarily around the mental health first aid courses that you get. Now, we're not saying everyone has to become a mental health first aider, but if you did need help, look for somebody within your organisation that probably has a first aid qualified within mental health.
Or suggest it to your HR team, because I think it's a big thing now in organisations. If you're in your organisation and you figure out, okay, we don't actually have any mental health first aiders, suggest it, because it's a great learning opportunity for people. And I've actually had people come up to me being like, I know you're a mental health first aider, can we just have a quick chat about this? And it's not about you being a therapist, it's about you pointing people in the right direction, pointing them to the right resources, and just being that listening ear that they might not have at home. And I think that's so important, because you spend most of your time at work, so you just need to be happy. And I think it's just really, really good form of support to have.
100%, and I feel like you need that support, because at some point somewhere you are going to feel a little bit down in the dumps. And you might have a shit day at work. That is still an impact on your well-being.
That's a given. You're not always going to have good days at work, but people don't realise that does have an impact on your mental well-being, that we just don't talk about it enough, especially in our community. So
no, and I think that's why sometimes we're so engrossed within work and our daily life. Me and Hirali were having this discussion the other week. We went on a walk to our local park, and we were just walking, talking, and she knows I do not a lot of activities, but we were deciding what we can add to our schedule to be able to impact ourselves. So we were looking at things like tennis, like just going to play a simple game of tennis. We're both not great at tennis, I would say.
No, we never really tried. Well, I've never really tried it.
I haven't tried it either, but the thing was, it was just something that could help us, essentially, go on a given day and just have a hit about for about half hour and come back home.
To get the sport, guys, Emma obviously discussed, we went on a walk 2 weeks ago, I think, on a Sunday. But this park is literally 5-minute drive from our house, and it's such a beautiful park. We literally walked, got a coffee, and that was so good for our mental health. I was like, why do we not do this more often? We don't have to go on these expensive dates. But instead of being cooped up in the house all day, we should get out, because fresh air is so good for us, and we just don't realise it.
100%, and I think that, like Hiro says, not just sport, but there is other things you can do. Walk, speak to people, visit family. There's lots of things out there that you could do to be able to help yourselves. Because I know once you have a full-time job, once you have several jobs, you're probably cooped up and thinking, oh, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, this needs to be done. And by that point, you're probably cooked, quite literally. But yeah, guys, seek first aid help, or get onto a mental health first aid course, because you guys could impact somebody.
You could help someone, and I think that's so wholesome,
isn't
it?
It is, and it's great for your CV. Great for your CV. We'll swiftly move on here, Ollie, and I think this one's probably going to be a big one with men and mental health. And I think,
are you ready to be open and vulnerable?
I'm always vulnerable, but here we are. Don't know if I'm open. No, I'm actually closed. I've got you, so I'm not open.
This isn't Love Island.
Oh, sorry. But that's also been in the news, funnily enough, for mental health and things like that, about people.
Well, actually, let's talk about that quickly, because I've got Hemel into this season of All Stars. And there's been a lot with Lucinda and obviously Sammy and Belle. I know we all have our own opinions, but mental health plays a massive factor in these reality TV shows, and obviously people watch them and then they act accordingly to what they watch, don't they? And there's been such a variation I've seen on social media of people backing certain sides, and I think it's so interesting, because no one's actually thinking about the bigger picture. And as I said right at the beginning of this episode, be kind, and I think that's what's failing to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I got involved in it and sort of started watching it, because I saw all these dramas that was going on, and I was like, you know what? It's probably difficult for those people in the villa. Yes, everyone can say, yeah, but they've put themselves in that villa, right? That's fine, but A, they're away from their family. B, they're within one environment, seeing the same people 24/7 for about 6 or 7 weeks, right? and things are going to blow out of proportion. We know that. But what struck me was I was scrolling through Twitter, and I wasn't involved in Love Island this much up until I saw the stat, and it was like they've had nearly 13,000 complaints about about Island and things like that, and people's mental health. Well, you'd imagine why, right?
Yeah.
And then I started getting a little bit engrossed in it because of this. And this actually leads on to our next one, because it's men and mental health.
Yeah.
And there's been several men within that villa who have probably been impacted. And we'll strip it slightly into two parts here, guys. Yes, one part is non-Asians being impacted, non-Asian men being impacted, and they're quite open about it. The second part will be Asian men and why we're slightly more vulnerable. But those guys in the villa they've been good, but they've been obviously been impacted, and I think like they're probably a lot more open than somebody like me, I would say. What do you think?
But do you think, like, I tell you, oh my god, I'm so stressed, or like, oh my god, I'm feeling anxious about this, and I'm quite open about that, which is obviously linked to mental health, and that's how my outlet comes out, and it doesn't last long because I speak about it. Whereas with you, you'll let it fester for ages, and I'll be like, what's wrong, and then you'll tell me. So is it something to do with stigma? Is it something to do with ego? Like, what is it?
Probably a bit of both.
You don't talk about it?
Oh, men are, particularly in the Asian household, are viewed as the strong points. They're viewed as the foundation. They're viewed as they're basically the rock, right? They're the bricks. They're the foundation. They're everything, right?
But they also have emotions.
And the problem there lies that, as well as that, obviously they're trying to support their family, but they've got to support themselves as well. And then it just builds up, and at the end of the day, people don't realise that it does build up. It adds up, and you feel mentally low. And you might not speak about it as a male, but if you've had a lie-in or you're going out with friends, right, that's you just having a little bit of your own time. If you're sat on the sofa quietly, you're probably thinking, you've probably got a lot going through your head, but also you might just be relaxing. So everybody does have a little bit. The part is the stigma. Nobody wants to talk about it because they feel like they're going to get judged.
Yeah, I don't want to use the phrase, but less of a man.
Yeah.
People discuss that, and I'm just like, really? Like, I think it's such a nice thing being vulnerable as a man, and I think that's so important to be in touch with your emotions, have emotional intelligence. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to somebody previously, within the NHS, and they were really helpful actually. Can't, obviously, because it was a private phone call, can't really disclose much, but yeah, and that was really eye-opening. But I think, like you said, less of a man.
Did you find it hard in that conversation to open up? Did you find that they were asking more of the questions and you were letting on? Like, were you letting them lead the conversation, or were you still talking more and expressing your emotions?
They led the conversation.
Is it because you find it hard?
Yeah, I think initially there was that part where you're talking to a stranger, but B, you're sort of going, do I actually want to say this? Do I not want to say this? Do I want to say this? And they are trained in a way to try and allow people to talk. So eventually they did get what they need to get out of it. And fair play to them, and it helped. You come out a better place, and you come out feeling a little bit more free and lighter. But no, it was good. So yeah, like relating to a little bit further, a little bit before this topic, that does help. Particularly for men, I think it is. You've got to open up. No, you've got to open up. I think that sounds a bit harsh, but you've got to try to find a way to open up and find somebody to talk to. Particularly for Asian men, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stigma that's attached.
Do you find that amongst your friends groups, you actually talk about mental health, and it's like, because we talk about it amongst our girls?
Yeah, we talk about it. Yeah, we talk about it. We talk about it quite a bit. Particularly when we're out and about with each other, we talk about it. There's three of us are now married. We've got stresses of wives.
Excuse me.
But no, on a real, yes, we do talk about it. one of them was feeling a little bit low recently, probably just work. So that way, he's had his own time and whatever. And obviously, when we meet, we'll probably have a breakdown of that. But normally, yeah, we do have good chats about it, or we just put it on our group. And like I said before, we just have a weekly update and we just scrun everything into that.
But that's so good. Like even having that weekly update on your chat, that's so good for your mental health. It's like brain dumping everything you're feeling for the week.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to have a bit of boy time and talk to your boys about what's going on.
And sometimes like we put things on there that other people don't need to know. Like that chat is very me and the boys. Nobody else will know what goes on in that chat.
Even I don't.
No, you actually don't. So
no, I don't mind. Like that's your space. You know what I mean? That's your outlet to vent and talk.
Yeah.
To people who've been there for your whole life, and I think that's so important.
It's really good, guys. And I think we'll probably extend this topic at some point, but men and mental health, it is particularly in the Asian community. I think slowly but surely we're getting better, and we will get better. But there's plenty of awareness out there. Remember, there are plenty of people to speak to. Workplaces are great for that. I just think it's up and coming, right? We'll find a way through that. And if you ever need to talk to us, we're here. Yeah. Right.
Ending this topic, what's one piece of advice you would give someone, like say an Asian man who is similar to your age, who's struggling with mental health and doesn't know where to turn to?
Probably ring the doctor. They offer. I mean, we're quite lucky our surgery offers that service. I don't think every surgery offers it. Ring the doctor, see what they have to say. If they've got a full-time job, I'm pretty sure you've got a mental health first aider or we've got
employee assistance program.
We've got that. Yeah, that's what I was about to go. Well, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, look for that. The employee assistance program. You should be able to find somebody to speak to there, or the insurance companies that you have through work.
Yeah,
they should have somebody. But
a deeper topic than normal. I think we thought this was really important to talk about. Obviously, we've only lightly touched on things.
Going on holidays helps, doesn't it?
Yeah. Going on holidays helps a lot, guys. I recommend. But yeah, moving on. It's game time.
It is game time.
But it is a bit serious this time because I had to think of a game that was obviously linked to the topic. So it's called Myth or Truth. So I'm going to read out some statements and we're going to decide whether they're true or they're a myth. Okay, so the first one. Asian people don't struggle with mental health as much as other groups.
Could you repeat that for me?
Asian people don't struggle with mental health as much as other groups.
Myth.
Okay, why?
Because it's just not spoken about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just as prevalent amongst the Asian community. We just don't discuss it.
Yep.
We discussed earlier.
It's hidden.
Yeah, so true. And it's like majorly underreported, isn't
it? It could be a truth as well, in the respect that because they probably come from a tougher background, and hence they can get through tough times a little bit better. But still, there is that element that I think it's a myth. Yep.
Next one, myth or truth? It's common for Asian parents to be emotionally distant and not supportive of their children's mental health issues.
Depends. Truth. Truth. Yeah, I think.
Really?
Common. Repeat it again. Sorry.
It's common for Asian parents to be emotionally distant and not supportive of their children's mental health issues.
I think that they're emotionally supportive, so I'm going to go myth, actually. Yeah. I think they're emotionally supportive, but they don't recognise it's probably mental health.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, I think it's myth.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Because it's about understanding the right way to express that support, and I think that's what they're failing at maybe currently. But maybe it's just a lack of resources, and as we keep mentioning, like culture. Okay, next one. In many Asian communities, seeking therapy is seen as a weakness.
Truth. Truth. Because you don't want to open up and talk about it, right?
Yeah, because there's a strong reputation of maintaining, like there's a strong thing about maintaining family reputation as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's quite important, and I think if someone's seen to go to therapy, it's like, oh, something's completely wrong, when it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make themselves a better individual. Okay, last one. Mental health support is easily accessible to most Asian communities.
Truth.
Okay, why?
because you can. I think if
It's easily accessible.
yeah, I think you got your family for a start. Okay, you can speak to your family, although they might not understand. Right, you might not actually blurt it out as mental health, but you'd probably start to talk about what you're feeling and whatever, and they can probably guide you. The second thing is obviously if you're feeling a little bit lower and you have a full-time job, you could probably go find to the doctor or whatever, or workplaces. I understand if you don't have a full-time job, there is always an outlet. So you could talk to your friend or one of your family members or somebody else. Right?
But do you not think if people aren't as westernized as us and they're like a typical traditional Indian family, there's like a language barrier and there's a lack of like knowledge of where to go?
Yeah, there probably is that. Yeah, there probably is that.
But I think we're quite lucky in that sense where you talk about the workplace and stuff.
Mm.
We're educated through the workplace, which is really important, I think. People who are like stuck in this Asian community where they can only speak like Gujarati or Hindi, like I think that's really hard for them to then seek the right support because they might not be able to vocalize it well.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, that's the end of game time, guys. But thank you so much for tuning in to this really important topic, and we'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts about mental health and mental health in the Asian community.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thanks for sharing your experience, because I think you're quite vulnerable in this.
Thanks. Thank you. Time to go. Have a cry. Thanks, guys. No, I'm not really going to go have a cry, guys. So, you know,
I was really serious.
It's because he already said I was vulnerable. So don't take that to heart, guys. No, I'm going to go have a cup of tea now, I think, or something.
Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you shortly in the next episode.
We will. Cheers, guys. Bye.